Graydon Carter said that he used to tell advertisers that Vanity Fair was the biography of our age, 1 month at a time. So I was just going to ask you, like, what would you say Mind Body Green is in this fast-paced world of technology?
Yeah, so we are committed to your whole health journey. And we believe that health is a journey. It goes up, it goes down. And, from a fundamental standpoint, we believe it's a combination of mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and environmental well-being. And when one of those pillars is out of whack, your well-being is likely out of whack as well. So there's not some elusive state of, peak wellness that we're seeking, but, it's a journey where we, somewhat like a game of Marco Polo, you get a little bit closer, a little bit farther, and then in times like 2020 and the world we're living in now, we've really understood what's the purposes of all this wellness. Because, as people who have been in this for over 10 years, of course, we've asked ourselves many times, like, what is the point of all this? And I think it became really clear for us this year, where it's literally a matter of, life and death. If you are able to mentally get through the challenges of 2020, if your metabolic health is in line. So I think it's gone from what may have been portrayed as something a little bit fluffy, a little bit of crystals, to now something that's just really vital and a matter of life and death.
Right. Yeah, I heard you mention the clutter of wellness in a previous podcast. I'd love for you to just extend that.
And I am all in favor of the wellness and well-being church getting bigger. But some of the questions we get most frequently are, how do you figure out what makes sense and what doesn't? How do you figure out, like, where there's science and where there's fluff? And it's really nuanced, because, a lot of the beauty of wellness is that, we've been talking about the value of yoga and meditation before there were double blind clinicals, to back it up. So a lot of it really depends on the experts within your circle to help decipher, what's legit and, what's not. And at the end of the day, there may be some things that don't have a ton of science behind it and that make you feel good, that offer you some comfort, that help you cope, that help you soothe. And I think we have to allow space for that too as well.
Right, exactly. I mean, how do you decide with all the content on Mind Body Green? How do you guys decide what's relevant today, and how do you choose what to put on there?
Yeah, so much of it comes from our audience in terms of telling us, what they want to hear more of and what they want to hear less of. And over 10 years ago, when MindBodyGreens started, food was our main entry point for people. It was food and nutrition. And this was still beginning, and it seems so silly right now because folks who are part of the Wellness Committed know this, but that what you eat and your food affects your health, your skin, your anxiety levels. But 10 years ago, that was still, somewhat of a novel concept. And as the world's evolved, as we use more technology, as everything changes so rapidly, we find now that the main entry point for people is really around mental health right now. It's not very surprising, but that's really kind of like our gateway. And, our philosophy is that you have to be engaged in all these pillars. Like, you don't go to a yoga class and then, go to Burger King.
Right.
Once you get interested in one of them, you realize the interconnectivity of it all. And you do want to dive deeper into, the other areas and pillars. It's just a little bit harder to see that ROI or that impact from, maybe working on a relationship with a family member than it is when you have a great meal, you feel great, you feel nourished, you feel great the next day, and you're like, oh wow, I should do that again.
Right. I mean, I feel like when our paths crossed briefly working together, that was right at the point where there was like this critical mass a little bit of people starting to realize they could have a little bit more agency in how they felt.
Totally. And I think it's such an interesting conversation because it's kind of this conversation. I believe so importantly in people taking personal responsibility and agency and being the CEO of their health outcomes. And, that's coming from a place where I, like so many people who were, kind of early in the wellness movement, had personal experiences. I had a pulmonary embolism, as you may or may not remember, in which, I ended up in the hospital with tons of clots, where you really had to take control over your life and your medical squad and team. And so I'm a big believer in that, but with the big and of there are so many people right now who also don't have these resources, who are fighting systems that are working against them, and who don't have access. So it is definitely an and for me, and not just on the personal responsibility side.
Yeah. When the company was younger, and now that how long have you been around now?
11 years.
11 years. Okay. Okay. Have you guys learned anything since you were a younger company? Are there any did you ever get any heat or criticism from any mistakes that you made earlier on?
I mean, absolutely. I think we've learned so much over the years, of I think in the beginning days, we allowed more people to have a platform than we do. It's very curated now in terms of
Yeah.
the experts that we invite to participate in the conversation. And we curate that conversation in a really meaningful way. But we also think it's important to have responsible conversations that aren't taking place on other platforms as well. So I think it's about being really thoughtful about the conversations that matter and presenting them in a thoughtful way, especially now when the world is so polarized on every issue. And we want health and wellness to transcend polarity, to transcend politics. We want it to be the one thing that everyone can agree on, no matter where you stand on other issues. We're not quite there yet as a country, but soon.
How big is your a core team there in New York?
Well, our team is now scattered throughout the country.
Okay.
But there's about 50 of us, and our office is still here in Brooklyn, but a lot of people have moved home with friends and family, and we as an office team aren't getting together in the same way that we did 7 months ago.
So I was going to ask you, what is it like running a company with your husband together?
We get asked that all the time.
Oh.
And it's interesting because I think there's an uptick in partners, generally speaking, working together and taking on entrepreneurial challenges. And for us, we don't know another way. It's the only dance we really danced. Even when I wasn't full-time at MindBodyGreen, when I was the breadwinner of the family, I was involved in nights and weekends. So for us, it has been our dance for 11 years.
Mhm.
I think having clear division of roles and responsibilities is really key. And I think COVID has definitely caused us to kind of rethink how we do things, because it's so different to be, working alongside your partner or your spouse when there's 50 other people in the office. But when you're the only two people go into the office every day, it's a little different. So we've had to kind of shake things up, and maybe it's going on a walk, maybe one of us works from a different place every now and then, or a different part of the office, because COVID, like everything else, has definitely puts challenges that you're like, oh, this is feeling a little bit different, I need to adjust.
Right. I've heard, I'm definitely an outsider when it comes to raising capital, but someone told me that it was that women don't get allocated capital as easily as men do, but definitely for women's companies. I don't know if it helps for you to be a man and a woman at the helm when it comes to raising money.
So I've always worked in worlds where women are at the helm. So before MindBodyGreen, I was working in apparel where there was just so many visionary women. And that's always just kind of been the way in which I've seen the world work, which is not the way in which the world always works.
Right.
But I've definitely been blessed in that my experience is not the way in which the rest of the world works.
Yeah,
So
and plus, and MindBodyGreen is sort of gender equal, right? But I mean, I don't know. I'm asking, what's the percentage of men versus female consumers and customers?
our audience is 85% women.
Okay.
So,
I don't you think that has a lot to do with motherhood too?
we used to see it in the search data that is a huge inflection point. I tend to see that women tend to lead these conversations in their households, um, but it's great to see men getting into the health and well-being conversation so much more than they were 5 years ago, which is really inspiring too.
Yeah, for sure. And your leadership style? Do you have a significant leadership style?
I've been involved in every facet of the business essentially besides our engineering team. And, I've worked with sales and I've been on the front lines of things. And I think there's, so much value in knowing all elements of
Right.
your business
Yeah.
and understanding those challenges from walking in your team's shoes. So I am definitely involved and excited about details in a way that may surprise some people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think knowing as much as you can and then being curious and then being able to delegate is important.
Curiosity, I think, is like the single biggest success trait for people here. Because our business does change so quickly, and you need to be able to flex and grow and be excited about that. People's roles aren't clearly defined boxes, and does that excite you or does that scare you?
It's anti-aging to be curious and to be always excited and in awe of
Love that frame up.
yeah. And I had this baby at 43, so I am definitely looking at anti-aging now because I want to stay as young as possible for as long as possible.
Well, you look beautiful, so clearly whatever you're doing is working. I think motherhood depletion could be worthy of its own, standalone conversation. And we were just talking before this conversation. Our littlest baby is about the same age, and I had my two babies pretty close together. And so, I feel like for the past 5 years, I was either trying to get pregnant, or breastfeeding, and now I'm trying to reset that baseline because you just get used to kind of depleted from sleep deprivation and so many other factors that it's something that women need to talk about more.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it a little bit. I was going to ask you, like, what is the secret sauce sort of in balancing work life and motherhood? Tell me more about that. That's really important to me.
you know First I'll say I'm still trying to figure it out,
Right.
but some of my mainstays is having those anchors where you calendar and schedule in those healthy habits and start to the day. I want to make sure on Monday that I'm having the greenest of my green smoothies and giving myself like the most optimal setup for the week. um,
Mm.
I am obsessed with sleep, which I know is like a tricky thing to
Yeah.
say as a young mother, but that also means for me where I invest, time and money is helping my girls get sleep trained in a way that feels right for them. Because if they sleep through the night, that means mom sleeps through the night, and that's
Absolutely.
really, really important to me. I think it also is worth talking about that in COVID, a lot of our tools got taken away from us.
Right.
Um, I used to have, and this is a total luxury, so I want to acknowledge that, but, a standing healing appointment, whether it be, acupuncture, or sometimes it was physical touch and massage. And in COVID, that kind of got taken away, and I had to reset. And now, when things have opened up again, it's been wonderful to be able to have that. And I forgot about how much I needed those rituals,
Yeah.
to feel my best. So I
Yeah.
think everyone's kind of figuring out their lanes and how we navigate. But having those healthy anchors and really prioritizing sleep would be my two uh, best tips.
Yes, absolutely. Sleep. If you have to choose between sleep and exercise, choose sleep. Yeah. Um, Another question I was going to ask you is, what is it like having sort of, really major health influencers and experts like on speed dial, so to speak?
I feel so fortunate. Um, and we have this conversation often, and I think it's, you know, part of the mission of Mind Body Green, because what do people do when they have these issues? A lot of these experts I can't afford to see on my own. And that is one of the wonderful values of Mind Body Green, is that some of the most trusted thought leaders in this space are sharing their tips and resources for free.
Right.
Because it is so hard to navigate. And I feel so fortunate, you know, that when I just got, you know, as I shared with you guys, you know, stopped um, breastfeeding, I'm like now ready to, you know, kind of reset my hormones and depletion. I know who to call. That's not normal. So
Right.
I think it's a really hard area to navigate without having someone to help shepherd you. And I hope that Mind Body Green can play a small but meaningful role in helping people kind of navigate, get resources, and figure out their own health journey.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Are you on the other end of the phone to anyone who's maybe a younger starting entrepreneur?
Uh, and sharing biz advice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, all the time. And I have to say, there is a really incredible community of free flowing information both ways. I am, you know, getting advice from people who have traveled in my footsteps before me, and the information flows in so many wonderful ways. And that, I think, is one of the amazing, you know, ways in which people are just so open to wanting to share and have those conversations in ways I would never have anticipated.
I know. I mean, this is why we're building community here. It's so important to give and to support each other. Um, I was also going to ask you, like, do people at Mind Buddy Green, do they have any luxury of time when it comes to um, like creating content that's relevant today, or are you guys like always flying by the seat of your pants? How does that work as far as like time?
Yeah, you know, there is a lot of health, you know, is stuff that is evergreen, right? So we can be thoughtful about, you know, the content calendar, and you know, plan things out in a way in which people aren't quote unquote flying by the seat of their pants. But then, as you know, the thought leader in this space of holistic health and well-being, we also want to make sure that when there is something timely, like a new study around vitamin D, that we're getting you that information, you know, as soon as it comes out. So it's kind of a balance.
Yeah. Well, it looks like, you know, you take care in what you do over there. And I think the not just a consumer, but humans really sense that and appreciate it, you know?
That makes me
Yeah. And it's just I'm just gonna we're getting low on time. So well I really appreciate hearing your perspective on your business, and I thank you for helping make the world a better place and cultivate community while we all just take charge of our well-being and you know, persevere.
deep breaths, one foot in front of the other. And yeah, we all need a little bit of healing right now.
We really do. So we will be in touch, Mama. And thank you for naming your daughter after me. I'm so honored.
I love your name, and it was so wonderful to see you and to reconnect.